Hello students, welcome to our latest update program. In this video, we'll be discussing the Cheetah Translocation Pact which has been signed between India and an African country. So which African country are we talking about here? It is Botswana. So India has signed a Cheetah Translocation Pact with Botswana where we are going to get 8 cheetahs from Botswana to India under the Project Cheetah. So these 8 cheetahs will come from the Ghanzi town of the Kalahari Desert. So these cheetahs will come from the Ghanzi town of Kalahari Desert, and where will they be introduced in India? So we are talking about Project Cheetah here. The primary site for cheetah translocation has been the Kuno National Park, which is in MP. So this is the primary site for cheetah introduction. However, there is also an alternate or a secondary site. In case there are capacity constraints at Kuno National Park, these cheetahs can also move to a new location, and that is the Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary. So this location is also being prepared for the introduction of cheetahs. And where is this located? Again in MP. So we have a primary site which is Kuno National Park, then we also have a secondary site which is the Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary. And this visit in itself, the presidential visit in itself was very important because this was India's first presidential visit to Botswana. And during this visit, the president signed several MOUs and agreements with Botswana, and one of them were around the wildlife conservation. Under this, we have the Cheetah Translocation Pact which has been signed with Botswana for taking 8 cheetahs from the Ghanzi town of Kalahari Desert of Botswana to the Kuno National Park in India under Project Cheetah. So this is what it's going to happen. Now we're talking about Project Cheetah. So Project Cheetah also becomes important for us. So let's quickly recall what Project Cheetah was all about. So Project Cheetah becomes very important because this was world's first intercontinental large wild carnivore translocation project. We were translocating cheetahs from one continent to another, from Africa to Asia. So this was launched on 17th September 2022 with the introduction of 8 cheetahs from Namibia. In the first round, we received 8 cheetahs from Namibia. So we moved them from Namibia to the Kuno National Park in India. Then again in 2022, we received 12 from South Africa. And now very recently, there are talks of getting 8 from Botswana. So all this is happening under Project Cheetah. All this translocation, intercontinental translocation of cheetahs is happening under Project Cheetah. Now please understand that Africa was not our first choice for getting these cheetahs to India. So who was our first choice? It was Iran. Why? Because there are 2 subspecies of cheetahs, Asiatic cheetahs and African cheetahs, and we obviously had Asiatic cheetahs. But Asiatic cheetahs were declared to be officially extinct from India in 1952. And the only other site where they were still remaining was Iran. So our first choice obviously was to go to Iran and get these cheetahs and reintroduce them into our ecosystems. So there were talks with Iran where we wanted to get their cheetahs in exchange of our Asiatic lions of Kir. But that could not be materialized due to some political or diplomatic constraints. So we were left with a different option. We could not get Asiatic cheetahs back into our ecosystems. So we had to move to African cheetahs. And for that, the first country who gave us these cheetahs was Namibia. So under Project Cheetah, we got these cheetahs from Namibia, then from South Africa, and then finally we are getting them from Botswana. And this is being implemented by NTCA, National Tiger Conservation Authority, plus the Wildlife Institute of India in collaboration with the Ministry of Environment. So this is for Project Cheetah. Now please understand that cheetah translocation doesn't just happen like this, that you airlift the cheetahs from the source and move them to the destination country. There is a mandatory quarantine that these cheetahs have to undergo. Why? Because you're talking about moving these cheetahs from one location to another, from one continent to another. They're used to their natural habitats, they're used to a different prey and predator situation, different climatic conditions. You're moving them from one place to another. So they'll have to be acclimatized to that zone. So for that, we have the quarantine facility. So there are two quarantine facilities. One is at the source country itself, and the second is at the destination country. So what happens here is, these cheetahs that we're talking about, they're first taken from these natural habitats and they're moved to a quarantine location, and there they're checked for diseases, they're checked for any vectors, they're checked for different situations, like they're made used to the different situation, they're made used to living in a condition that is different from the natural habitat conditions. And in this case, in the source country, our quarantine facility is being developed at the Mokolodi Nature Reserve. So this is in Botswana, but the cheetahs will first be relocated from the Ghanzi town of Kalahari Desert and they'll be moved to Mokolodi Nature Reserve. Here they'll be quarantined for some time, roughly 30 days. This can also change depending upon the needs. But after this, they are going to be airlifted, and then a second quarantine is going to happen at our destination, which is going to happen in India. Here again, they will be checked for vectors, they'll be checked for diseases, and they'll be acclimatized to India's climatic environment, India's climate, India's weather, India's prey, India's predators, India's ecosystems. So they'll have to acclimatize to those areas, to that different surroundings, so that they can just get used to the new surroundings and not their natural habitats. So a second quarantine is going to happen at the destination country. First happens at the source country, and after this, they'll finally be left open in the semi-wild conditions of the Kuno National Park. So this is the entire procedure for translocating cheetahs from one continent to another. So that was all. That is what's happening in the Cheetah Translocation Pact. But because we are talking about Botswana, Botswana also becomes important for our exam. So very briefly, let us discuss Botswana as well. So Botswana is a country in Africa, and this is surrounded by 4 other countries. This is basically landlocked, and it has 4 other neighboring countries, which are Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Namibia. It's a landlocked country, and 70% of the landmass is covered with the Kalahari Desert, from where we are getting our cheetahs. And these are the 4 neighboring countries. Now there's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site which is very important, which is the Okavango Delta. And we know that Botswana is one of the largest producers of what? Diamond. So resources wise also it is very rich, and wildlife wise as well, wildlife ecosystem wise as well, it is also very rich. Biodiversity is also very rich. So because of this rich biodiversity, we are relocating these cheetahs from the Kalahari Desert to Kuno National Park in India. So that was all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Now let us look at a practice question for prelims. With reference to the recent India-Botswana agreement on cheetah translocation, consider the following statements. 1. The cheetahs being brought from Botswana belong to the Asiatic subspecies. 2. The cheetahs will first undergo quarantine at the Mokolodi Nature Reserve in Botswana before being relocated to India. 3. After arrival in India, they will be released directly into the Kuno National Park without any further quarantine or acclimatization. Which of the above statements is or are correct? A. 2 only, B. 3 only, C. 1 and 2 only, or D. 1, 2 and 3. Please provide your answers in the comment section and we will meet in a new video. Thank you for watching.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe. And do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.